Hey there, this is Allysia from Piano TV, and I'm creating a really short video series with common problems that I see adults have at the piano. Now, I've actually done a two-part series of this before that you might have seen on my channel, Common Adult Problems with the Piano Part 1 and Part 2. This is an updated version based on the experiences I've had teaching a whole bunch of adults over the course of the last 3 years, basically from COVID onward, in online lesson format, because I've had a lot of students in this particular context as I've been teaching online courses. So I have a little bit of an updated perspective, perhaps, on things that I'm seeing happen a lot. And when I'm giving personal feedback to people, these are the things that I tend to cycle through pretty frequently. So I thought they might be a benefit to you. So this is going to be a 5-part series where I share these common problems. I'll try to keep them relatively short and sweet and, respect your time that way. Before we get started, a couple announcements that I want to let you know about. So number one, I'm releasing a 4-part webinar series also this month. It's totally free, so you can find a link to sign up below if that's going to float your boat. It's all about music theory. So each webinar, which is a week apart in this series of 4 webinars, is going to be starting from the preparatory level of theory through grade 1 through grade 2, and then finally finishing with grade 3. And it's the theory concepts that you would need to be familiar at each of those individual grade levels. And you can sign up for all of them, you can sign up for one of them, totally your perspective, but again, it's completely free, so I invite you to join that. Number 2 announcement is that my piano classes, a whole bunch of them are opening this month, toward the end of the month. So if you're looking to take some piano classes in the fall with some other people, and you want to hunker down and get to work in a way that I hope will be fun for you, definitely check out the link below. pianotv.net/ptvschool will give you all the information on that. All right, so let's get started with today's video. Mistake number 1 that I want to talk about is the mistake of overdoing it. This is something that I tend to see more with people who don't take lessons with me, but people who are coming into lessons, and they're bringing in this sort of habit from the past. This is probably one of the most important habits that I think is worth correcting, and that I try to hunker down on. And the style in which I teach classes really is meant as sort of a direct antidote to this one specific problem. So the problem of overdoing it is, I define it as basically you work on one piece, you single task it, you don't do anything else except this one piece every time you sit down and practice piano. And you're doing this one piece for like a month or two, and you're spending at least half an hour a day just directly working on this one piece for a period of time, such as 1 to 2 months. And then you basically go through your piano studies like this. So by the end of the year, you've maybe learned like 4 to 6 pieces, depending on how much you've been working on it. But there are some really major limitations to this approach. And the reason I consider it overdoing it, not just doing it, but kind of overdoing it, is because there can be significant problems with repetitive stress with this kind of thing. So the very first issue I take with this approach to learning music is a physical one. It's one where you're more likely to injure yourself. Piano practice is based on the idea of repetition. So there's repetition built into it. Every single time you practice, you're probably drilling sections, or at least you should be. There's a lot of repetitive movement. So we kind of have to put a cap on how much of that we're doing at any one given time, especially if you haven't been playing piano for that long, or if you are at risk of carpal tunnel or other tendon issues. So we want to be really careful that we're not single tasking one piece, especially 30 plus minutes a day. Usually for any individual piece that I recommend in my class to practice, it's 15 to 20 minutes a day is kind of the maximum. And especially once you start getting into the more like further along classes, like grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, you start having it so that you have multiple pieces happening simultaneously. So on any given week, I think it's much better for you to spend, if you're going to spend an hour a day practicing, spend that hour a day practicing 3 different pieces, and then also maybe some sight reading technique, ear training, just kind of that extra supplemental stuff. That's very easy to fill up an hour. But the reason that I think it's crucial to spend all of that time practicing 3 different pieces as opposed to one piece 3 times as long is because that one piece 3 times as long is going to be requiring the same motions over and over and over again. Whereas if you're doing repetitions with one piece, then you put that piece away. Then you do a bunch of repetitions with another piece, then you put that one away, and then you finish with your third piece, different set of repetitions. You're less likely to injure yourself just by the nature of those pieces having different physical micro movements. So I also think that there's a big issue with efficiency with this way, which I think is the secondary reason that I suggest it to people. But number one, I really want you to take away that practicing a single piece with nothing else, and you spend 30 plus minutes on that piece every day, can potentially be problematic for your long-term tendon health. So I think that's really important. But there is the efficiency issue. So if you're single tasking, you're just working on one piece, and a lot of people really want to do this. I've done this before a lot, so I get the instinct to do it. You get this sort of like obsessive energy about learning one particular piece. But it's not an efficient way to practice, because a lot of practice happens when you're not actually playing, and it's like some magic that's happening in your brain in between practice sessions. So if you spend 15 minutes on a piece for 3 weeks, or if you spend 45 minutes a day on a piece for 1 week, your results are not going to be the same. Even though the math seems to make it seem like it's going to be the same. It adds up to the same number of minutes, but somehow by spreading it over a longer time horizon, you're gonna learn it better. You're gonna learn it more efficiently. If you do 1 week of practice, 45 minutes a day, you're gonna finish that week probably with like maybe like a rendition of the piece that wouldn't be too far away from what you'd pull off in 3 weeks, but it's going to feel shakier, and it's going to take a lot of grinding. Just that, grinding, that experience when you're practicing, when you're just sort of like, it's really tough and you're just struggling and you have to do something over and over, but it always feels like this big effort, and you don't really get to that point of relaxed flow where you can just sort of, muscle memory kicks in, you can relax into the playing a little bit. It's really hard to achieve that if you're cramming a lot of practice into a short amount of time. So by doing the same number of minutes, but spread out much more on a gentle slope over 3 weeks, you're going to probably end those 3 weeks with a higher quality of piece. It's going to feel like there's more ease. And your practice sessions probably won't be defined by the sort of like grit your teeth and bear it sort of like grinding your way through it. So it's efficient. It's just more pleasant ultimately to practice a piece for a little bit every day and then put it away, and then just trusting in the process that in a few weeks it is going to come together, even if it seems slower when you start it and you probably want to get to the finish line more quickly. It will be better for your overall experience. You'll enjoy your practice more, and it's more efficient in terms of your just your muscle movements and giving your brain time to consolidate the inputs that you're putting into it and so on. So anyway, I'm going to wrap up today's video just with that point. So this is why, if you're learning, try not to single task. I think everyone does it or has done it at one point. I don't think it's an effective way to learn music. I think juggling a few pieces at once is a great way to give your fingers a break from a different type of repetition. Give your brain a break, and also give your brain just time to ease into the pieces a little bit more. So anyway, I'll meet you back in the next video with a second problem that I see adults have with the piano. And thank you so much for watching. I'll catch up with you soon.